Shoot, I know it's been, apologize that it took a little while to get to this point where I was out here, but just working through some things and all-star season and whatnot. But with that, I'll take questions.
The injuries were what they were, but being up 21-3 at halftime, I imagine you sitting there at the Soldier Field thought you guys were going to win that game. How have you digested that since then?
Not well, but no, I mean, yeah, I mean, there's, in every season there's successes and there's failures and there's disappointments and things like that. And, again, I was proud of our team in a lot of areas this year. But finishing games is certainly something that we got to, concentrate on as we head into the 2026. And that was one where I thought, certainly we played very, very well in the first half and had a lot of things in front of us. And, when you get in a situation like that, you expect to win the game.
Time to compete for championships. I guess how do you view the competing for championships in the backdrop of how last season ended?
Yeah, no, again, we don't run from those expectations ever, Bill. We were 9-3-1, and I didn't think we had played particularly great football during the season. I thought we had moments, but I thought we had an opportunity to kind of round into form there in the second half of the season, and obviously it didn't work out that way. So I did think there were moments where we played at a very, very high level, championship football type level, but it wasn't consistent enough. We didn't sustain it. So those are, I think, as we go into this offseason, we continue to evaluate 2025 before we get on to 2026. It's on the front of our minds.
Brian, from your chair, how do you take this team from a good playoff team to a contender team?
Yeah, we're working through that. I think, obviously that's a collaborative, thought and decision, and we're working through all that right now to, obviously a lot of coaching changes and things that are happening around here. Before I would get into any of that stuff, I think certainly there's a lot of people that are going to weigh in on that are just getting here and just getting to know our football team and our players. So, but it is something Matt and I and all of us here have really certainly it's been a discussion throughout the season and certainly after.
How do you evaluate this season given all the injuries you guys had along the way?
Yeah, like I said, I think in every NFL season there's successes, there's disappointments. We have one goal here, and we never run from it. We're here to win championships, and I think this team is capable of that. 2026 will be a different team, but the expectations won't change. Again, I thought there were some really good things during the season. There also were some major disappointments, but I really do like the guys we have in that locker room, the guys that are coming back, and we'll continue to add to that. And again, I think we're all excited to get at it.
What have you identified as the reason you guys were unable to finish so many games this season? And isn't that something that's supposed to come from the head coach?
Yeah, I think it's all of us, right? I think it's players, it's coaches, it's everybody. And I think for me, I think, in certain situational football situations, we have to be better at, we have to be more consistent at. And I think, for me, there's two things. It's one, do we have the right people out there, that can handle those situations? And then two is that, are we doing everything to give them the best chance to succeed? So, but yeah, so I think we're looking at it from all avenues. It's very important to us. But, again, we got a good group of people, not only players, coaches, but support staff, and we'll find a way to get it done.
Brian, from a personnel standpoint, do you guys as an organization need to put more of an emphasis on special teams?
I really think over the last 4 or 5 years, we've probably put more emphasis on than we ever have. Certainly when I was working for Ted, which was always funny because Ted was a special teams guy, but we were never really going to have a player that was strictly a special teams guy. He had to play a position and have a major kind of role or developmental role as a position player on offense or defense. I think when Rich got here, the way I think about him and the faith that I have in him, there was a lot of discussions, and we certainly have added a lot of those kind of guys that are just more special teams oriented players, and we improved. We've gotten a lot better. So, I have a lot of faith in Rich and what we're doing there. I think that last game, obviously, we missed some kicks. Brandon had made 32 straight going into that game, so we certainly didn't see that coming. But we got to be better in those situations.
You mentioned needing to play your best football down the stretch of the season. I know there's no one answer to that, but what's been missing kind of last 2 years to prevent that?
That's a great question. Certainly one we're trying to figure. I think in Matt's first 5 years, we were 25-8 in December and January. I think we're 3-9 the last 2 years. So we're looking at that from a lot of different angles. you know, to make sure that we're playing our best football in December and January. So I think that hasn't been the case the last 2 years, and it's really imperative that, you know, through process and people that we make sure that we take a long look at that.
What does it mean to you to receive a contract extension here, and can you share any details how long your extension, LaFleur's and all?
Yeah, I'm not going to really, yeah, I appreciate the question. I'm not really talking about the details of any of that, but what I will say is very appreciative for the opportunity to continue to push towards what we're trying to do here. I've been here a long time, worked here a long time, a lot of contracts here, and I'm always just exceptionally appreciative of the opportunity to walk in these doors and continue to try to chase what we're chasing. This is a very, very, very special place. It's very, very important to me, and certainly sitting here after 5 losses, you know, you feel very frustrated where we're at, but very appreciative with the opportunity that Ed's given us.
Brian, can you talk about how important the continuity is, you and Matt coming back like that? I mean, is that pretty important?
Yeah, I think it's exceptional that we've had it. I think that's one of the things throughout my time with Green Bay that I think has been one of our strengths is we've had continuity. Not only with coaches, but also like our team building process that Ron kind of started back in 1991. I mean, certainly it evolves, but it's the standard of that is still here, and I think that's been one of our strengths. So I think that continuity is very, very important.
To follow on that, would you just term this more run it back, or with the coaching changes, a change and a significant difference going to next year?
You know, I don't really would ever term anything run it back. Every year is a new year; it's its own year. So certainly, in the National Football League right now, particularly with the coaching changes and player movement, every year is a different year, and this will be no different. We've got a lot of work ahead of us, but really excited about Jonathan Gannon and the people we're going to be bringing in to kind of fill the role that Jeff Hafley, you know, had here last year, which is our big shoes to fill. But really excited for him and his new opportunity. But no, I think every year kind of is on its own, and we got to start from the beginning, and we got to build our foundation, and then you know, I think, you know, take a long look at some of the things that we haven't been doing the last 2 years and try to be better there.
How well or poorly positioned are you to be active in free agency this year?
No, I feel really good. Again, you know, a lot of that will be dependent on the decisions we make with the roster right now and what we do. But yeah, I believe we have all the flexibility to do what we need to do. We also have a bunch of young players, really good players that we would like to keep around here for a while. So we'll work through that. And but no, I feel good about our flexibility. And you know, I think the last few years, Russ has done such a good job of keeping us at a point where if opportunities present themselves, we're never not able to do those things. And like Micah last year, you know what I mean? So, you know, I feel really good about it.
What's your familiarity with Gannon, and what do you think he can do with the defensive personnel that you put in place here?
Yeah, not a lot of familiarity until, you know, kind of the interview process and what we went through. But you know, everybody spoke very, very highly of him. Really enjoyed our visit together, and excited about what he can do. He brings some different ideas and than what we've done in the past, and that's exciting. And no, obviously he's got a very strong, proven track record, and that experience, I think, is something that was enticing.
Does he stand up his edge guys? Is he going to with you guys? Or?
He has. He's done both. You know, certainly, you know, he has background in both, you know, 4-3-3-4, and has the versatility to kind of do what he thinks, you know, is in the best interest with our current players. So that'll kind of evolve as he gets to know our team.
So that's undecided as of right now?
That'd be a question for him, but I don't think so. I don't think we're just kind of getting at it, you know.
Ryan, I know it was Ed's decision to extend Matt. Did you have input in that decision? And also, given the track record in the playoffs and what happened this season, why do you think he is the right coach to get you?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that was Ed's decision, and but fully supportive of it, because, you know, obviously I had the opportunity to work with him for, you know, 7 years really closely, and you know, you guys know him. He's an excellent football coach. To get where we're going, he's the guy we need. And, you know, I think he's as eager as anybody to get back at it. Nobody's really satisfied, obviously, with kind of how this season ended. So it's kind of, we've been through these before where it's like as soon as the season ends, you want to get started on the next one, because, you're just not satisfied with where we want to be. But, I think along with Russ, I think the three of us over the last 7 years have really found a really good working relationship and where we can lean on each other and support each other. And was happy, obviously, that we're all coming back to keep going.
Days after the season, when the four of you huddled, what did you come away from those days feeling like and thinking about, where you guys are going?
Yeah, no, really good conversations. I think a lot of it was really, Ed's been here a while, but he really hadn't been involved with our work, the three of us, and how we work together. I think a lot of it was a learning process for him. I mean, the most important thing, I think, is all, being aligned, right? And the three of us have been that way for a long time, but I think it was really good for Ed to kind of see how we work together. I don't want to speak for him, but that was, I think, one of the things I think that was really positive that came out of those conversations was just kind of seeing us and how we converse and how we go through some of these decisions that we have to make.
Brian, are you hiring or promoting anyone to fill John Eric's spot?
I don't think we really probably we'll kind of work through that after the draft. We were we had a pretty big staff, so I don't really see us doing much movement there, but some guys will take on different duties, I'm sure, at some point. So we'll work through that after the draft.
On Micah, looking at what he gave you guys and obviously the investment you made into him, what'd you think of just his season in general, kind of where his arrow is?
Yeah, obviously, it's super impactful to our football team. I think the thing that was really nice to see was how he fit within our group, because you never really know how that's going to work. We knew the player, we knew when we put him out there the difference he would make on the field, but seeing the difference he made in our locker room and how he fit into our culture here. And really, enhanced our culture, I think was really pleasant surprise for me. Not that I didn't think that would happen, but with new players, particularly adding a guy that was, it was right before the beginning of the season. You didn't have him in the offseason, didn't have him in training camp. I think that was really, that was something that, just made me feel so much better even about the decision that we made beforehand. So.
Obviously, injuries are. Go ahead.
Influence the way you approach free agency and then down the road maybe the draft?
Can you start that over? I didn't hear the first part.
Not having a first-round draft pick, does that influence or change things that maybe the way you would approach free agency down the road the upcoming draft?
I don't know if it necessarily changes. Our process is our process, and we're going to continue with that. I think within that process, there's some decisions and the way we go about it that will be a little bit different, where we focus our attention. No, I think, it really won't change too much of how we go about things from a process perspective.
Obviously, injuries aren't an excuse, but they probably are an explanation to some things. Do you feel like if you guys would have stayed healthy, all these questions would be totally different? Or kind of watching in the moment, did you feel like, this is a good team, but maybe we're just not, or maybe we're missing something?
Yeah, that's a good question, Bill. I think for me, I felt through, the end of the season into the playoffs, we had everything we needed to win those football games. So, again, whenever you lose players, but that's the National Football League, and you have to be prepared for that, and you have to be prepared to move on. And certainly, it never helps, but at the same time, I never felt underhanded at any time going into these games at the end of the stretch of the season. So,
Will you and Matt work any closer than you had before? Is there anything you discussed about, moving?
We're not going to move in together. I mean, I don't know, we work pretty close together. I mean, it was the daily conversations, and so I think that would almost be really hard. But yeah, I mean, I think that anytime you've been together 7 years and you continue, you almost feel part of each other at sometimes, but share the same brain. But so yeah, I mean, it's a really good working relationship. Excited to keep going. But yeah, no, it's that would be hard to say. Again, we spend a lot of time together.
When you look back at your 2 free agent signings last year, did you do any misevaluations there? Did you not take, usually you don't take injury risks at all there. Did you take too big injury risks? What do you think happened there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously with Aaron Banks, he really hadn't missed much time in his career. So, some of the things he went through was unexpected, but really thought he played well towards the end of the season once he got healthy. And then, obviously with Hobbs, that's he'd had a little bit of things, and it's certainly not as much as he had this past year. But those are always risks you take whenever you get into the free agency pool. Most all these guys have had stuff. If you play 4 or 5 years in the National Football League, you're going to have some things that you're going to have to kind of take some risks on. We did. Didn't work out this year, particularly with Hobbs, but we'll see how it goes into next year.
Follow-up with that then?
Sure.
Have you made decisions on whether either or both will be back next season?
We really haven't, with losing 5 games in a row. I don't know if we've made any decisions on anybody yet. But yeah, those guys are under contract, so I would expect them back.
The extensions say that Ed believes that you and Matt and Russ are the right people. Obviously, the results weren't what you wanted. I would ask Matt this if he was here. What do you feel like you have to do better now that you have a little bit of security to get you to where you want to go first?
Yeah, I think obviously just we got to win the games that matter the most in December and January, right? That's kind of been the tale of the last couple of years. Just teams ready to do that, and we haven't done that. So that's kind of the next step. So I think, as you evaluate every season, you're looking at those things. Certainly, that was a strength of ours prior to these last couple of years, was how we finished, and we were playing our best football at the end of the season. We haven't done that the last 2 years, so I think it's a little bit, probably getting a little bit back to basics and just making sure that, again, that we're not missing anything in those areas. But yeah, that's what I would say to that.
I guess more personally, I mean, you took the big swing. I mean, you made a very bold move to go get Micah. When you look at whether it's draft philosophy or free agent, I mean, are there things that you're self-evaluating that you want to do better?
Well, you always do that. I think you always you look at your process, and I mean that's a kind of a yearly, or not yearly. It's like everyday discussion about those things, from the littlest thing to the right colors on our player tags to bigger discussions about how we're building the football team out. Certainly, when you get new coordinators and stuff, so you go through some of that stuff too, just looking at how you're going to build the team out each year. But I feel very, very strong about our process and how we build our football teams, and it's been proven here for a long time. So that doesn't mean we don't constantly evaluate it to see how we can get better, how the trends in the league are going. You do that stuff all the time. But like I said, I feel very good about not only our process, but the people we have in it.
Brian, how do you evaluate the year that Rashan Gary had, and do you expect him back in 2026?
Yeah, like I said, I expect all these guys under contract to be back, but we're just getting started into kind of looking how we're going to build out the team for next year. I thought he started out really, really strong. I mean, obviously he had a lot of production early. I think he ended up with 60-some pressures and 7.5 sacks, which that's nothing to. I mean, that's a pretty good production in the National Football League. I did think towards the end of the year he wasn't as productive as he was at the beginning. So certainly that'll be something I'm sure he looks at personally, and we look at as a team, is how we can continue to make sure that his production level is the same at the beginning and the end of the season.
Brian, the last couple of years, you've obviously taken a lot of guys from the Senior Bowl. What was your big takeaway this year down in Mobile?
It's cold. It was really, really cold. They changed the format up a little bit and how we do interviews, and really liked it, the way they changed it up. They moved them into the morning, and we actually shared with another team, which I think was better for the players because it was less on them. Again, it's a good group of players, and I'm still just a lot of my guys know these guys inside and out. I'm getting to know them now. Our scouts fly in today. We start draft meetings tomorrow, so I'm excited to get to that and start building out the board. But Senior Bowl is always an exceptionally important time for us and all 31 other teams in the National Football League, and this year was no exception.
Before the Micah trade, it seemed like your big offseason project was really the offensive line. You had a really good run game in 24, and it just, even before Josh's knee, it just never seemed to match that. What's your eval on why? I'm sure you're expecting more from the line.
Yeah, I think it was a lot of moving parts, and we never just kind of got off the way we wanted to. I think there, but I think again we had some young players playing in there, some guys that had moved positions, and then some injuries happened, and guys were moving around. Some players in contract years, things like that. So there was a lot of things going on there. But that is definitely one of the areas that we need to be better at if we're going to accomplish the things we want to accomplish in December and January.
Do you feel like guys were in the right spots on the line throughout the season?
Well, you know how I feel about versatility. We talked a lot about that up here, and to me, they need to be able to play multiple spots. And I don't really care where they think they may be better in. When they're in there, they need to perform. And all the guys even the guys that were moving around a little bit, my expectation is that they perform at a high level. So. That's going to happen in the National Football League. Injuries happen. You got to be able to move. You got to be able to play multiple positions. It'd be, perfect if nobody ever got hurt and you could just stay in one spot and you have the same 5 guys every week. But that's that's not reality.
You've shown a willingness to extend guys coming off of major injuries. Do you want to get Tucker done before the season, or do you need to see him come off the knee before paying him?
Obviously, he's a really important part of this football team, and we would certainly like to have him around. But that'll be something we work through with his people, and we'll kind of see what's best for us, best for them. But certainly, the impact that he has on our football team is not only as a player but as a leader is very important to us. So, we're obviously already been in contact with him and just letting him know how we feel, and we'll kind of see where it goes.
You obviously
What
struck
were your
gold.
thoughts on what were your thoughts on Matthew Golden's rookie season and just his role in the offense?
No, I thought Matthew did an excellent job from the beginning in training camp throughout the season. Whenever he got his opportunities, he capitalized on them. I thought he did an excellent job. Like all players, I think when you go through tough times, when you're losing games and maybe you're not getting as many opportunities as you want, that's going to be frustrating. But I thought he handled it like a pro, and when his number was called on, he performed. And really excited to see what he can do in year 2.
You struck gold with Malik. What do you have any handle about the guys behind him, those guys that you brought in toward the end of the year?
Yeah, I was still going to know some of the pretty early, Bill, with Desmond and Kyle. But just, we'll get to know those guys. Obviously, we'd love to have Malik back, but at the same time, to be realistic, I think he's going to have a lot of opportunities to maybe play more than he would here. So we'll see where that goes.
You meant the run game. Josh Jacobs did play through a lot of injury last year. He's entering his age 28th season. He's had a ton of mileage. Where do you think he is going next season in his career?
Yeah, no, Josh Warrior, really important part of our football team. Everything that he brings to us on the field, in the locker room, he's an important part. I think he's got a lot of good years left.
What about Anthony Belton? What do you see from your rookie tackle this year?
Yeah, really proud of him. I mean, again, he was moving around a little bit early from tackle to guard. Mid-season stepped in there at the right guard spot and brought a different kind of physicality to us, aggressiveness. Love the way he finishes. Really excited to see where his career takes him. I think he's gonna be a impactful player for us moving forward. Still a ton of room for improvement, but I thought for a rookie with what we asked him to do, he did a really nice job.
You mentioned having a lot of young, good players that are headed to free agency from that 2022 class. I remember a couple of years ago before the draft, you pointed out that 1.6 average of players getting second contracts across the league. How are you balancing that? Because that's a blockbuster class, and there's some decisions that, how do you go about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate you can't keep all of them, right? That's the way it works in the National Football League, and certainly every year there's guys that you have to move on from that you don't want to, but just because of the choices you have to make. And this year will be no different. Next year will be no different than that. It's just a constant kind of look at how do you give your team the best chance to win year in and year out. And certainly Russ and I spend a lot of time just looking at 26, 27, 28, how everything, if you decide to sign a guy to an extension, how that's going to affect everything else. But those aren't easy choices because you can't predict the future. But at the same time, it's better to have a lot of those choices than not many.
Those guys have been a key component to your philosophy of being young, and then they become young but still experienced. Are you willing to consider, or is it worth thinking about maybe just having a couple more guys that are not like way past their prime older, but the 30-year-old number is a number that seems like a pretty clear line of demarcation on your roster. Is that something that you're open to, or do you really think that you have to be careful?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's a line of demarcation at all. I think obviously we went through a period of time where we were kind of growing with these young guys, and I would expect these guys to kind of turn into those guys. Sometimes, particularly where we've been the past few years, if you have a lot of those guys you're talking about, these other guys don't get to play and progress, right? And they have now, and yeah, I mean, we've been young in number for a couple of years, but not in experience, and yeah, I mean, I think to me, anytime you have an opportunity to add a player that can help you regardless of their age, I mean, again, very few years are we adding guys for 1 year. We're usually looking for a more long-term solution, and certainly if you're up there in age, that may not be the case. But we've certainly done that in the past. We'll do it again.
So you don't things that Jordan dealt with have in surgery after the season or anything?
Can you repeat that, Rob? I'm sorry.
The things that Jordan dealt with during the season, did he have to have any surgeries?
No, he's good. He's clean. Yeah.
Brian, how significant is the injury to Zach Tom, and how confident are you that he can come back early in the year and be himself?
Yeah, really proud of Zach and how hard he fought to get out there and play with what he was dealing with. He's going to be on the shelf for a little while here during the offseason, but I wouldn't really expect it to impact his 2026 season.
To Jason's veteran question, you were obviously the youngest team in the league the last 3 years. You don't see any connection between being young and some of those late game issues?
I don't.
Brian, when you look at your Super Bowl teams, do you feel like you're on that par with them, or?
Well, I mean, not the last 5 games, right? I mean, certainly not. So that's hard to say. But listen, I thought during the year that we could compete with anyone, and I think we proved that through the season. At the end of the day, we didn't evolve and develop into a team that could consistently win when we needed to, and that's what we have to do, right? But I thought our guys, there was many moments where we showed up in big moments and won some games and played well in some highly competitive situations. So again, we were 9-3-1 heading into Denver, and felt really good about our football team and where we might be able to go. It didn't turn out that way, and then I think now we're in this evaluation period of, okay, let's make sure we do everything we can so that doesn't happen again.
This week, Commissioner Goodell says the hope is eventually there will be 16 regular season international games, so then every team will play in one. I'm curious your thoughts on that, and then what have you found as the pros and cons of the international games you guys play?
No, that's a good question. I think it's inevitable, so it's something we have to be really good at. I think at the beginning when we went to England the first time and then obviously Brazil, like my thought process, man, this is awful, you know what I mean, and how it's going to affect our football team moving forward. Not that they were not great places and it was neat and all that, but like when you're focused on what I'm focused on, which is the health of your football team, and those things. But I think it's one of those things that it's on us as an organization to be really, really good at it, and I think part of that is kind of being excited and accepting that. So I think it's going to be part of the NFL for a while. So how we travel, our logistics, how we set up our football team is just something we have to become really good at.
Brian, what was the evaluation on Jordan Love this year in your eyes?
As far as you're talking medically or just like as a player?
The season kind of went on.
Oh no, I thought Jordan played really, really good football. Some of his best football, especially down the stretch. I actually thought he was one of our guys that played very, very well down the stretch. Continues to be an unbelievable leader for our football team. I couldn't speak more highly of what I think about Jordan and where he's headed. And as good as he's been for us, I do think he'll continue to get better because it's important to him, and he works at his craft. He's always looking for another edge. I feel really good about that.
Brian, what do you lose in a guy like John Eric, and how do you do your best to refill?
Nothing. No. I couldn't be happier for Sel. He served this organization well for a long time. Me and him were, we kind of had the same path, and to see him get his opportunity that he's worked so hard for, and to be able to do it with a guy like Half, who was here as well, like just so excited for those guys, and he's going to do a great job. He's impacted this organization in such a positive way since he was here, and will be missed. But again, we have a very big personnel staff with a bunch of guys with a lot of experience who are ready to take on some of those duties. In my mind, over the last 2-3 years, I kind of expected this to happen, so we were kind of preparing behind the scenes for it to happen. And it doesn't make it easier to lose a guy that you've worked closely with for so long. But couldn't be happier for him and his family.
I'm not sure if you could be happier with your safety play, even Bull at slot. When you look at what you have at the corner, do you need wholesale change there? But how do you build that up?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think again, we had some injuries there. Obviously, Hobbs, was missed for most of the season, never really got going. I thought Carrington stepped in and did a great job. I think he continues. He's a young player that's still getting better. Keyshawn obviously had a very, very good year. I think he was in the top 3 in PBUs, and he did some really good things. So do we need wholesale changes? No. I do think it's an area, though, that those guys, those guys can get hurt. They're the smaller guys on the field. We ask a lot of those guys in run support. So the depth there for me is important that we have answers.
I know you'd rather be getting ready for Sunday's game than talking to us. and Schneider and Elliott are getting ready for Sunday's game.
That's cool, isn't it?
Yeah, I talked to Ron for a while yesterday. When you think about all the guys that have come from his time here, including yourself, what was 97? You were an intern, right?
Yeah, 97.
So camp 97, yeah.
I mean, and I know you've tried to carry that on, and you've had a bunch of success, but what does that tell you about Ron, and what does it tell you about this place?
Yeah, I think, one of the coolest things that ever happened to me in my football career was just kind of stepping into that world with all those guys, Scott McLuhan, Reggie McKenzie, John Dorsey, Ron, Ted. And I didn't know it at the time. I knew they just won the Super Bowl and they must be pretty good. But to learn from those guys and kind of soak that in, and they were so confident at the time. They had so much faith and belief in what Ron was doing and the system that it was just really easy to buy into. And then I spent a year in Kansas City with John. It was a different system, but John was kind of trying to take what they were doing in Green Bay and implement it in Kansas City a little bit. And then I came right back. And it's again, it's really cool to see. I mean, I really normally, if we're not in it, I could care less about that game and hope they both lose. But in this one, I just know no matter what the outcome is, I'm gonna be really happy for that person. And that's just it's just a really cool thing for the guys that come from kind of that have been with Green Bay, have come through that process, are still really close. There's guys throughout the National Football League on all kinds of other teams. Dorsey used to call it the mothership, this place, the mothership, and you all have a sense of pride coming from that process. That's the way I've always looked at it. And it's one of the best things that's ever happened to me career-wise.
So did John babysit Elliott?
That would have probably been before my time, but I doubt that. It might have been the other way around.
Brian, you mentioned Micah and how well he fit in, and obviously the injuries and whether that's an explanation or not. But when you go back to leaving Denver and seeing what happened there in the third quarter, what was going through your mind?
It's an unfortunate part of this game, and it's a risk you take whenever you acquire players. It's that can happen, immediately for me, and it's probably just the callousness of being in it. It's just, okay, what's next? How do we make sure we do everything we can for the football team to give them the best chance to win the next game? Frustrated we lost. I hate to see it individually for those players because it's when you've been around enough, and I've had 2 children that have gone through ACL repairs. How hard they have to work to get back to where they were, and so there's certainly some empathy, but at the same time, this is part of it, and the team has to move forward and go. So that was where my mind was.
It's your job to stay the path forward, and I know that you said you're never one guy away, but as seismic as his impact was there any part of you that thought that might just change the calculus? How there's some guys that maybe you can't get over their departure.
No, I don't ever think that way. I mean, certainly, whenever you lose any players, it takes away from your football team. When you lose great players, like Micah and Tucker and others, I mean, you have to. It's going to change how you play the game. It's going to change how you try to win the game. But that's the thing about the National Football League is they don't pause. You can't pause the games from coming. You got to be ready. And we spend an enormous amount of time with our pro staff with the ready lists and making sure we have the best answers we can for when those things happen. And it's just you get used to it.
That makes I totally get it in real time, right? Because the games are coming. But in Denver, you're up, what was it, 23-14 at the time that Jordan throws the deep ball to Christian, who then ends up leaving in an ambulance, right? And then you lose the star on the other side, Gary without Tucker. After the season is over, is there some rule against you being able to say, as a general manager in the NFL, we got screwed by injuries. We had a damn good football team, and it prevented us from getting where we thought we were going to go? Are you just not allowed to say that? Because
it's not I don't think it's like that. I just think it's I don't know, the mindset. I mean, I got 1 ring since I've been doing this, and it was a year we had more injuries than I think any other, right? So, it's nothing against any of the other teams there, but you never feel like, hey, we can't go win this game. I fully expected where we were in the middle of the playoff game to win that game and be heading to Seattle and win that game. you know, and so, again, it's like, I think that's the thing that makes this job so, as tough as those moments are, it's what draws us a lot to it. It's the competitive nature of it, you know, and to, you know, I always say it up here, but the roster building is 365, and we're always on top of that stuff. And that's, you know, to me, if you're going to do this in those moments, that's where your leaders better step up and be ready to go. You know, not only your players, but your coaches and myself included. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's, those things suck. You never want to lose good players, you know, I mean, but it's part of it's the nature of the business. And I mean, you know, if you got an answer to get around it, then I'm all for it. But it's just, I've never seen even these two teams that are playing this week, they've had their share of injuries as well, you know, and, sometimes it's fortune, sometimes it's the way you're doing things, and you take a look at it all and just try to make the best decisions.
I think,
Are you okay with bringing McManus back after that last game? And do you have to have competition? If you are going to, do you have to have competition for him? And are you willing to eat that roster bonus if you have to?
Yeah, you know, so like competition, you know me, I want competition at all these spots, no matter what. If we can have enough spots on the roster. Again, like I mentioned before, he made 32 straight kicks up until that game, right? You know, he worked through an injury thing early in the year, which I commend him for fighting through, because it was a little bit more than probably he let on. And once he got through it, he was really, really good until that final game. So he's a pro's pro. The one thing that I've always felt good about is he knows how to kick in weather. So certainly we didn't see that game in Chicago, you know, for him not to perform like he normally does. But yeah, we'll have competition at that spot, but not because of anything that happened this past year. We're just, I think we always need to have competition at that spot.
and I think Jordan Morgan played 4 different positions so far in his career. Do you guys need to have him just focus on left tackle this offseason if you guys plan for him to start there next year?
I think it would be ideal. I think it's unrealistic. I think we're going to probably have to cross-train all these guys. I do sometimes think if you can keep a guy on the side, a left or a right, it's helpful for him a little bit. But his versatility certainly has helped us. I mean, that was one of the reasons that drew us to him in the draft, and certainly his ability to play all those spots has been a benefit to us. But certainly he's going to get a lot of opportunity. You know, I thought he played really well in the preseason at that spot. Probably did enough to win that job, but then it had some injuries, and we had to do what was best for the team. So we'll kind of see how it goes. But I think he's excited probably to kind of hunker down in one spot as well. But that's not always the case in the National Football League, so we'll see.
Brian, you made mention earlier that special teams, you still have a lot of faith in Rich Bisaccia. There have been a lot of playoff games in Green Bay that have been lost due to special teams, including some two errors in the last 2 seasons. What gives you that faith in Rich and the special teams to make
Yeah, you know what Rich brings to this our culture, this football team, you know, is just it's really, he's a very impactful coach around here. You know, certainly, you know, I thought we've been better on teams the last few years than we've been in a long time. Our cover units have been better. We got one of the best punters in the National Football League. We got an excellent snapper. You know, Brandon was excellent last year. This year again, he worked through some things injury-wise, and then had a bad playoff game. You know, that was kind of how that ended. But no, I got a lot of faith in Rich and his staff, what they do around here. Not only the X's and O's and what they bring to the field, but what they bring to this place culturally is really important.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Brian.